edition of Short Track Radio. We finally have gone off of Zoom since Bonnie Henry seems to think it's okay to expand our social circle, and we're doing it with Mike Haslam. We're in Mike's garage. Mike, thanks for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you for having me. I think what you guys are doing is a great thing. The stories from the racers that are coming out, it's nice to hear from people that people might not know, the people that used to race. So the stories that they tell you, it's good for people to learn what they've gone through in racing. And some of the stories are pretty cool, what people have gone through to get to races or what they did during the race and stuff. So thank you to Short Track Radio. Much appreciated.
Awesome. Yeah, excited to be sitting up at the Force 2 race shop here with lots of, like you mentioned before, some of the heritage. You got some old T-shirts and awesome
the background
posters.
of that photo right behind the 100.3 the Q sign.
Yeah, it's because you're in it.
There we go.
Nice. So, speaking of some old sort of racing heritage here too, we got a picture up on the screen of grandfather Jim's car. It looks like
Billy Foster behind the wheel.
Billy Foster behind the wheel of that one, but what's left of that car? There's back in the day when they didn't have hoods on them, no fenders, just a little bit of a cowl on there.
The good news is it's one of the first that has down tubes from the looks of things. Actually, if you go to the Victoria Auto Racing Hall of Fame, that car is in there now, the restored version. But Mike, as you said, the Haslam family racing history goes back a long way here on Vancouver Island.
Yeah, with my grandpa. He helped build the racetrack with Andy Cotton back in '53. He took his bulldozer down there, and there's other people that are helping too, so he wasn't just the only one. There's lots of people that put a lot of time into Western Speedway, and hopefully it sticks around for a long time. It's 66 years old now, and I think it's the oldest racetrack in Canada, so it brings out a lot of good family entertainment. People love going to Western Speedway. I love going there. I've been there since I was born because of my grandpa and my dad racing, so hopefully it'll be around for many generations.
So you corrected there, right, Nicole, about Billy Foster. So when I was looking this up, your grandfather was with this car? His name was attached to it in the Hall of Fame and stuff like that. So did he help build it or crew on it?
He owned it.
He owned it and then drove it. Okay.
And
this is the reason why I like doing it, is I don't know this history. I've heard little stuff. Just like school, I half listen, and then later on you're like, oh, you're actually completely wrong. So, yeah.
And before that, it was the '98 stock car, wasn't it?
Yes.
The Haslam.
This might have been the first one before, because this goes back in the 60s, like 61 maybe, 60, 61 era of racing. And then I think they got the kind of the looks of the car was after this one. It's at Western Speedway still. It was the old 32 car, I do believe, that Rob Scott drove, and my dad actually got behind. There's a bunch of other drivers. Milt Barnes owned it. And what I've been told, that body, I don't know what the chassis is, but I do believe it. Everything is what my grandpa had it.
Awesome. So that's a cool piece of history sitting in the Victoria Auto Racing Hall of Fame. We're trying this picture prompt thing.
Yeah, I'm trying a little bit.
One of the more iconic race cars to come out of Victoria was your dad's Garden City Auto number 22. What are some of your memories from back in the day, with that car and the black Camaro that came after that one, and kind of that whole era racing all around the Pacific Northwest?
Well, my dad had some pretty cool cars back in the day. The 67 Chevelle was a nice car. We had a 67 396 lowered road car, and that thing was a beauty. But this car here is nice. He had a 64 too that Gary Kershaw drove, and he had a lot of wins into it. My dad had a lot of wins into it, so it would be nice to have some of these body panels now, and then you can start selling them on eBay, because it'd be worth some money.
I was going to say the worth of some of these cars now that these previous guys were pulling out of the junkyard for $50, $100 or something that. It's pretty interesting. My dad's favorite was the Marlin from back in the day. That was an interesting interesting car. You don't normally see an AMC Marlin out on the track.
No. What paint scheme was it? Like their standard?
Was it red? It was a triangle.
No, it was orange.
Orange.
And then they painted it red, white, and blue. And my dad actually they talked to Bobby Allison, because Bobby Allison back in those eras was the same AMC bodies and like chassis and engine. So my dad contacted him, and I guess he told him what motor to put into it, and so it was kind of cool that Bobby gave him some information on the AMC. And I don't know how long he ran that car. I think it was probably at least 2-3 years, the Marlin, because then it went red, white, and blue. And that paint scheme is pretty cool, the red, white, and blue. My brother ran it, throwback there in 2000 and I think 6 or 5 or something. So it's pretty neat. We're going to do a throwback here on my dad's black Camaro in my NASCAR Super Late. We're going to paint it. It's black now. We're going to silver and red. And I'm not a red guy, but just because it's my dad, I'll do a nice paint scheme for him.
We can, I guess you can allow it when it's the old man.
Oh, yeah. He hates green, so when I first went down to Las Vegas with my late model, he helped me work on it, and he goes, I asked him, what do you think? And he goes, well, nice paint job. Never said it didn't look good or anything because it was green, so he didn't like green because back in the day it was green was bad luck.
Might have been green 13. It would have been the worst case scenario for him. So
At least you weren't eating peanuts.
No.
There we go.
Yeah, it was green's the color of money, so I like green.
And John Forrest won all of his championships with green race cars. So
I like John Forrest.
Yeah, and Steve Kinzer as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So picture of your dad and brother here, just building that relationship. You know, obviously a little bit younger than you, but coming in, I sort of met up with you when you were racing with your brother and your dad, and late models and stock cars sort of at the beginning when we was following you, and then you made your way up. But for you, starting was Claimers, or is this Road Runners? What was the classic car?
You're correct. It's back when we first came out. Yeah, it was '86 that we started, and they were called Claimers. You claimed the whole car for $325 back then. And that car there, it's a '67 Ford Fairlane. Leroy Wade and me, and I actually, we drove it. So we took turns, and at the end of the year, we figured out whoever had the most points would race championship night, and I won that battle and finished second championship night.
His tires and
stay
for racing.
Yeah,
so
I just made sure that he finished second in a lot of races and third, fourth, fifth, so that I could get the last race. And we almost won the last race. It's on a video out there somewhere that I got right on the guy's bumper taking the checkered flag. So it would have been kind of cool my first year to get a win. But I love the paint scheme. It was Bobby Allison was one of my favorite. Richard Petty is my favorite besides my dad. And so I painted my car for a couple years like what Bobby did. We just went black and silver the next year that we ran. But yeah, '67 Ford Fairlane. I'll tell you a little story about this car. Where Robbie lives right now, we still own the place that everybody's been to and had a couple of wobbly pops at our place.
Every time you drive by.
And then, there used to be a lean-to as you walked into the house, and I had to change the transmission in that car, the motor, and so we pulled it right in. You actually had to hop over the hood to get into the house.
That's what your brother was saying. He goes, yeah, we fixed some stuff, and we had to crawl through.
Oh, yeah.
Crawl through the race car to get into the house.
Yeah, I don't know. Mom and Dad really liked it, but we needed the concrete because my garage was it was dirt. Like I was working on rocks. I never had a garage. Dad was racing, so we got the second best thing, and that was like a tarp. And I took some CP pipe and made myself a shop out in the wintertime. Put the heater out there, a kerosene heater, to warm it up so I could work on my car.
Awesome.
So what's the best story you can actually tell from the old party days?
Well, when me and Robbie were little kids, and I can't remember what I did yesterday, but we used to ride our trikes and just beg to stay up. Can we hang out and with all you guys? And so we'd get our trikes, and the floor used to be red, white, and blue, and so we were out there bombing around. And I went to when I was down in Las Vegas, I got to meet Jimmy Insolo. And he drove the Trick 1 car there, and I went up to him, introduced myself, and '96, I do believe, and I said, hey, my name is Mike Haslam. And the first thing related to Roy, and the second thing, the parties you guys had at your house were unbelievable, man. So it's pretty cool.
I remember watching the O.J. Simpson getaway with, I think it was either you or Robbie.
Oh.
I wandered in, something was going on, there was a bunch of noise, I was outside sleeping in the truck. It was most Saturday nights, and something happened, so I came in and I sat there and watched it, so... Yeah, it was pretty fun times there.
That was what, 5 years before I was born.
Yeah,
probably. Yeah, you maybe a good thing your parents weren't out there. You might have been born right at our place there. Who knows? I do drywall, so I'm up in Parksville, like way out in the middle of nowhere, kind of. And I'm doing a house, and I started talking to this guy, and we just moved up from Victoria, and I said, oh yeah, I used to live down there, and told him who I was, and he goes, I've been to your house. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? He goes, oh, I partied at your house, dude.
It's all good times, good fun.
Yeah. A lot of people would come up, like racing. In the United States, the people when you see at the racetrack, you won't see them like until you go to another race. It's not like we're on an island. So when you go to the grocery store, you go to the gas station, you see everybody you raced against. So around here, we all hung out together, drink beer, whatever you did after the races. And when the Americans come up for some of these big races, IDC and like the Speedway would put on a good meal thing on Fridays, and then afterwards, some of the races, everybody would come to our house, and they're like, "What? You're having a party?" Well, yeah, you're invited. And they're like, "Well, we race against you," and they didn't. My parents didn't care. He goes, "Racing's over. Let's go have some fun now."
Absolutely.
Awesome stories, and I think we're seeing now. Where do you get the suit? Is that an old? That looks like it's got an old Winston West patch on her there.
I don't know. That might have been Jeff Robinson's suit. I think I had Rocky Collins, one of his old suits too, at one time. I think. Yeah.
The stance of the guy behind there is it good? Like the hair. I don't know. If it's
Yeah, no, it's
can't
not.
tell.
It's Alan
Look at
Arsenal. We got
I
to.
can't
It
even
looks
tell.
like Robbie, but
To my defense, I'm a little
Yeah.
bit away from the
We're gonna-
screen here, but
We're just going to describe this if the video portion doesn't come out.
yeah, it's going on
the
YouTube about 3 weeks before it's
It's the
out.
most 1980s thing I think
Oh, yeah.
I've seen all day.
Yeah, it's more than likely drinking a beer right there.
yeah, it's COVID-19 right now. Everybody's going back to that because you can get haircuts right now.
Yeah,
There
hence
we go.
the stash I got and the flow. So it looks like a little bit of throwback to your dad's car there. So was that before? So
No.
67 or so was. What,
That-
what year did the Black 22?
Oh, that was 1978 when Dad went black with the car that they got from Chicago. But this here was a Bobby Allison. It still got the star on the side, and
Oh, yeah.
I went to the same paint scheme as Bobby Allison. He was 22, so it was kind of cool. And plus, he came up here, I think, a couple times and raced against everybody. So he is one of my favorites. But Richard Petty was my favorite.
What class car is that still?
This was
stock car then?
no. This is when we took the claimers, and then this year we moved up, or they transferred into street stocks, and now you could keep your car, and then maybe your motor. You could claim the motor maybe back in these days, but I don't know. Maybe it was just you get to keep your car now, so now you can actually put some time into the car, make it look nice, and that was
No one took it for
19.
$300 on you.
No, that was 87.
So you're be second year running then.
Yes.
Awesome. Moving forward a little bit into
Jumping ahead a little bit.
the stock car days.
Thunder cars back
Thunder
then.
cars.
Yep. 95 or so, whenever I think Jeff Robinson and George Wade started this class. They went through and made the rules, and they're pretty much the exact same rules as it is today, is when I raced them in 96, 7, and 8, I do believe.
Yeah, they changed a couple. You could, the rear end, you can take the rotten frame rails off. And
Yeah.
A couple little improvements for the motors, but yeah, pretty solid class.
Yeah, there was a good class. There was a lot of good drivers back then. You had Jeff Montgomery, you had Lou Lamine, you had Tim Christie, my brother. Who else? There's some good guys. It was hard racing, and when you won races, you beat the best at Western Speedway in this area right here in the Thunder cars, because everybody came when they brought their big panties, and when they came to the racetrack, they all raced hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And that car had some great drivers. Wade Bland after, and then myself. So just
The stock, then the stock car rookie
Into the
of
stock
the year,
cars,
Cody
yeah.
Brown.
no, I tied. That was I think Brent Morris got me by a few points. I got late model rookie of the year. So
Yeah, that car's been around. It's still around somewhere.
maybe to get rookie. I see. This is the problem with memories, and I should look at my own stats.
Brian Clucci always remembers if he sees a car like that, he looks into the cockpit of the driver, and if he sees one of the gauges that have a big old dent in it, he knows it's my race car.
Yeah.
I took my
Why
steering
would
wheel.
that happen? What
Yeah, I
happened
took
there?
my steering wheel, and I guess I must have got taken out or something, and after the race I must have hit the gauge with my steering wheel. But he always laughs. He goes, "I know where your car is, because if that gauge is bent, I know it's your car."
So what was the transition there from so you go kind of the claimers, street stocks, thunder cars.
Stock cars after I bought Stu Gordon's car. I used to work for them, and so I worked so much overtime that I said, "Hey, why don't we just trade?" He was getting out of it. Stu ran races in
Allegedly,
'90.
CRA, he was paid fully. He paid tax on it and all. There's no bartering.
The races?
No,
The
there's no
race-
bartering
No.
system. There's no repercussions
No.
for tax evasion here.
No, I worked hard for that car. So, and then we just said, you know what, just trade. So I got that car from Stu, and they sponsored me on it because I worked for them. Stu did a good job in that car. They spent a lot of time. It used to be Frank Brambry's car. It was a street stock, and then Stu Gordon got it. Took it. I don't know if he took it to Lejeune's or somebody else, and they went through the whole thing. And when I got it, it was a nice car. We won some races in it.
Was that a Pontiac?
Yeah, it was a Nova Pontiac. Yeah, that's when Kurt Hogan was out there. He bought that kit cart, like Dodge kit cart, in '93, '4, and he kicked everybody's butt. But it was nice to get a couple of wins because he had that car Dodge going pretty good.
Mm-hmm. And we're looking at a photo here of a modified. I think you might have climbed behind the wheel of for a little bit as well.
The number 8 car. It's Terry Brown's, Cody's dad's, and there's a bunch of other drivers that drove this. And going back before this, Terry Brown used to race, and I raced against him, and he broke his arm, and he asked me to race his car, so I raced it for him in the street stocks. And then Terry moved out of the driver department and owned them, and so he had other drivers racing them. And so when it got to this car, when other drivers, he was going through drivers, and I got mad at him one day, and I said, like, what about me? Like, you let me drive your street stock, you're not going to let me drive your IMCA modified. And then finally he let me drive it. So I was like, yeah, baby, thank you so much.
It's funny, of all those drivers I have, it's not this picture you, actually might have, no, it was another picture, but I have it's framed on my desk. And I was like, because I always wanted to run a black race car.
Yeah.
I didn't really have an urge to run modifieds. I don't think it was a great experience for my dad owning them. I don't really know. It seemed like a lot of money spent for a lot of wrecked shit. But yeah, it was always one of the dream cars to run a mean looking black car, and maybe a little Moline aspect as well from that sort of mean looking car. But it was kind of a funny picture. Like before Jillian met you, she's like, "Why do you have a picture of this guy on your desk with this car?" And I'm like, "Well, my dad owned it." And told her the whole story. And she's like, "Yeah."
Yeah, your dad, he tells me all the time once he has a couple of wobbly pop, I'm the only driver that ever won a race for him. So,
Guy Barrett, Cassidy maybe or no?
I don't know if he
no,
did
he
or
wrecked.
not.
I remember him speeding
Yeah.
his real lot.
Oh, your dad always telling me, you're the only person I ever won in one of my cars.
Awesome.
You had some good drivers in there too. You had Guy Barrett.
Yeah.
Yeah, Guy did a good job.
He did. I was too young at that point. I can't really remember. I just remember Cassidy. It was going well, and then he spun out, and everyone got mad. That's all I remember.
It was the 4th car built when the IMCA Modifieds came out in the 90s. Russ Lejeune built them, the first 4, and then like Trevor Montgomery was in one, Gary Smith was in one. I don't know who the third one was. It might have been Billy Price's car. He had a big block. That thing was pretty badass, man. It was a beautiful race car. And he came out of turn 4, and the car just got, I don't know if it got loose on him. He turned right and went right in the wall. I was like, oh, man. It was a Mustang, too, I think, body. But Billy Price, I do drive well, so I'd see him every once in a while. And we'd always just shoot the shit about racing. And it's tragic what happened to him, but it was cool to be able to talk to him about racing back in the day, because he was teammates with my dad when they had the red, white, and blue, not the 67, but the 64 car, and he had the red, white, and blue number 21. So it was neat to see him at some of the job sites, because we're supposed to be working, but we're shooting the shit about racing.
Nice. Yeah, there's pretty cool looking cars then too. You had your Gillette car, the blue one.
Yeah.
Modified. That looked pretty awesome. Gary's car looked great. The
Trevor's,
17 car was that was next level.
When they put that Fiero body on, that was pretty cool.
They worked on some design stuff. They're like, well, we got this engine thing figured out. Let's work on the looks of the car.
Yeah.
Maybe and try some other stuff.
Cole, when were you born?
1999.
Oh, so you weren't even know, Lee.
Yeah, I know.
Well, at least you can go back, see all these memories. There you go.
Exactly,
For people just like you can go
and
back.
He's a stats guy. He knows all
Yeah.
that shit too, which is amazing. Like I don't know how many times he's corrected or gone like, oh no, and then gone through like 15 other stats about it. So it's pretty amazing for someone. You hear it all the time. People will talk about his announcing and stuff, but it's the knowledge behind it, which is pretty sweet.
The IMCA Modifieds, they ran dirt. They ran the pavement at Western and Saratoga. It was a good little series. I wasn't into it. My dad had that car. Then he sold it. I think Bart bought it. Bart Smith. And then Gary Eisenson had it. Your dad had it. So it was been around. It's still around to this day, that modified. And
Bart owned like at least 30% of every single car at the racetrack. It seems like every good car. Like both my late models were Bart's.
Yeah.
Are part out, and it's just like every single person has
It's a rite of passage.
Yeah, absolutely.
But those IMCA Modifieds, it was a good learning curve for drivers. There was so much motor and not enough tires, so you had to learn car control. The speed, you just couldn't hammer on the gas, so you had to have finesse. So there's some drivers that came out of there that it taught them how to drive a race car.
So now we're moving on a little bit. We are looking at down in Las Vegas. You moved down there. Maybe talk about how all that came about. You're racing up here, and then you find your way down in the desert.
Well, going back after the IMCA modified days in '93, and I ran the Thunder car for Rob Horn. He owned those cars, and then when he was going to sell it, and then Randy Price built that car. Randy Price builds nice cars, and when we got into that car, we had a chance to win the race. Randy was right there for the lead. My brother was right there. There was four of us, four people going for the lead, and then Rob Horn was like, holy crap, man, this is so much fun. He goes, let's build a brand new car. And I'm like, why do we need to build a brand new car when we already have a fast car now? So we stripped it down and we raced. But getting going after 99, I ran a sportsman car, they called. It was just after. You're a little bit more, you're allowed better shocks and stuff like that in the sportsman car, jacking bolts. And then Rick Horner from Victoria, he owned it. Kenny Hearn drove it. I drove for him. And his brother-in-law, back in those days, he lived in Las Vegas working for a computer company. So when the race came to Las Vegas, a friend of mine's dad actually helped build that racetrack, but I didn't know them back then. I asked Rick to ask his brother-in-law, I said, hey, would they sponsor me for a Southwest Tour race? And so he asked them. And then he says no. He didn't even look into it. So it's like, okay.
I thought we were going to have a good story here.
Yeah.
No.
And it's just like, oh, man, too bad. And it's just like, okay, that's when Gary ran it. And I'm like, man, if this guy we'll go rent a car. And so anyways, a couple of weeks, 3 weeks later, the guy called back Rick. And I know this started turning in his head. And he met Chuck Trickle. And then other friends of Chuck's and stuff. So the guy was just turning. His brain was turning. So he wrote up a proposal. He was going to start a 2-car team for me and Chuck. Back then, I don't even know Chuck. And so later on, time went by. It didn't work out with this guy. He just but I got myself contacted with Chuck. And then me and Chuck, instead of the third person, I like just talking to the horse's mouth. So then I went right to Chuck. Rick actually moved down there for a while and was helping out Kerry Steen. He ran the speed trucks. And so when he went down, they stayed at Chuck's because of his brother-in-law. They got to meet him. So when they were down in Vegas racing, Chuck said, yeah, you can just leave the truck here. So they did. And then while Rick was down there, he came back and I was talking to Chuck. And then he goes, are you still coming? And I said, well, I blew up my motor and I'm going to get the car ready and I don't have a motor. And he goes, well, I got a motor for you. And this is my late model. And so he goes, just get down here. And then I said, okay. So me and my dad went through the whole car, like the setup. So we painted it green. I did black and white checkers. Brian Woodsky helped me with that car. And it took us 4 hours to do the checkered on the roof. Because back then you had to do it one by one. Now they just do a whole sheet and you just put it on there. So me and him did 4 hours. So we get going, and then Chuck goes, you still coming? And he says, yeah, I'm still coming. And this is like 2001. And so he goes, you can stay here as long as you want, but you're not living here the rest of your life. And I was down there for 7 years, and he's like a dad to me, and so is Barb. And to get back to the story for what they went through, the Trickles, he's Dick Trickle's brother, their son Chris, he got shot 15 minutes right down from their house. They still don't know who did it or why or what, nothing. And nothing never happened, and hopefully one day that they'll get closure from it just to see why, because Chris Trickle was an up-and-coming NASCAR driver. I've seen him drive personally at Tucson, and that kid had some talent, and unfortunately somebody just didn't want him here on Earth anymore, so he's up above us right now and looking down on the Trickles. And so anyways, getting back to the story with Chuck, so I went down there, and I stayed with him, and we just became good friends. My dad raced against his brother. Like this, for me, coming from Western Speedway, like you just think about it. It's only driving down for like 24 hours, but for the racing world, you're a young kid at Western Speedway, and you're just thinking, okay, you know Dick Trickle. He is the best short track race car driver ever. Now here you are, staying with his brother, and it's like you're around it all now. And it's just amazing. And sometimes I had to like think to myself, like going, holy smokes, man, like where am I right now? And I'm like, I'm in Las Vegas. I'm racing a NASCAR Super Late that I built. Me and Stacy actually built that orange car there. This is the blue one now. It's the same car, just different body. And we had so much fun down there with Chuck. My dad would come down once in a blue moon. Malvin would come down quite a bit. Jeff Robinson would come down. My brother came down. That's the one picture with my dad and Robbie. He brought his own car in 2006, and I don't know. I still think about it, and it just is pretty amazing from where I'm at and where I got to go, and it's just pretty cool that I got to be with the Trickles, because my dad raced against Dick, and I got to be with his brother, so it's pretty cool.
And what's a story, racing story from down in Vegas, running at the bull ring that stands out to you?
There is so much. Like, I got so many good friends now. Like I said, like Chris Klein's dad, he helped build Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I raced against him. When my engine builder, I had an engine builder. I had 4 guys on my crew. And that's all we did. I didn't have enough money. When I first got down there, I almost came home right away because I didn't have enough. I only had enough for so long. And when I took my late model, the second race ever on the track, I won. The first race that I went to, it took so long to get the car ready, and because the oil lines are different, this is different for the Chuck's motor to fit into my car. So we got it all done. We got to the racetrack. No practice, no nothing. I go up on turn 2 to get on the racetrack. Never seen it before, and I'm looking at this little bull ring, and I'm like, okay, here we go. And we go out there and for the heat race. Didn't qualify, didn't make it. So we go out for the heat race. I finished 3rd. I was going for 2nd, and just right there. So we go back in the pits. We're doing this. The crews, like the couple guys that I met, they came and just like, hey, you want to come and help me? Because I have nobody. I had Rick, and it was just me and him. And it's like, okay. Well, the guy came back the next race, and that race there, we went for the main event, and I was going for 2nd place, and the water temp went up to 245, and I pulled in, and they go, what's wrong? And I go, well, we're overheating. Oh, hell no, get back out there. That's what we run down here. Well, at home, we're almost blowing up our motors because of the climate change. So it's just like, go back. And I said, you know what? We got a car in one piece. We had a chance to do something. So we came back the next race for the series. It was the Outlaw Late Model Series. And we won the next race. And I had this big guy. His name's Pat Petrie. And he's a big dude. He could have been like a linebacker. And I tell you what an awesome dude. The very first person that ever came up to me and say, I'm Pat, like, where are you from? And I'm like, well, I'm from Victoria, British Columbia. He goes, it's nice to meet you and all that stuff. And then it just became friends. And, of course, you just start meeting people afterwards.
Do you find it similar to up here, like a racetrack is a racetrack kind of thing? You find a group of people and you kind of bond over it? Or is it down there is a little more separated? Because you guys are coming from all over the place down there. Like, it's similar to sprint cars where they're, like, if someone rains out, you just drive for their 5 hours to the next track.
Yeah.
So do you find that there's enough of community around there? I know like Chuck has a ton of people around him and supporting him, but you as a new person down there or a slight outsider, how was that?
It was pretty much, you know what, racing, that's one thing about racing. It's a family sport, and that's where you meet, like when you go to a race and you go back to the next race, wherever you see that person, you go up, hey buddy, how's it going? And then they remember you, then you just, again, the next race, you just, hey, how's it going? Hey, then you just become friends. And it was just like that. Like when you go to Las Vegas, like you're not right at the grocery store seeing somebody like you do at Western Speedway. You don't see the person till the next race almost. So the more you race, and then they figure out what kind of a racer you are. You're not dirty. You're a nice person, and so you start meeting people because they come up, hey, where are you from? Where you been? And what kind of racing you've done? Because nobody knows who I am, right? I'm a hole in the ground. But they figure out, holy crap, this guy's winning races. This guy's doing this, and so you just start talking. And I like talking about the old days, like my dad's days. I wish I was old enough, like back then, to race against those guys, because I tell you what, my dad, Roy Smith, and like Gary Kershaw, Billy Price, even Billy Price, but Billy Foster, they had to build their own stuff. They just didn't go and crash and just go to the parts store and, hey, I'm just going to buy this stuff now and bolt it on. They actually had to work on their stuff and make it work. And that's what I like about the back in the day, is that, you know what, it was more about the driver, where today it's about the car. And I don't like that in racing. I'd rather have it to where if you go in your shop, whoever works the hardest goes to the racetrack, and that's where you win your races at the racetrack. That's what my dad always told us right from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. It still gives you a competitive edge. There's
Yeah.
guys that you tell that they do spend that extra time in,
Yeah.
though. But no, I agree. It's like you know, it doesn't matter if you the type of cars that are behind you here. If you're not spending a decent amount of money, it doesn't matter how talented or how much work you're spending
Yeah.
on it. You know, you're not.
When I went to going back when my dad was racing, it was hard for me. Everybody, oh, you got your dad, and I says, you got my dad just as much as I got my dad. My dad didn't come over and work on my race car, and because he was racing, so it was hard for me and my brother we had to do it on our own, and he taught us. But what he taught us is, in the long run, is that I have the cars I have today is because of that tough love, kind of. He wasn't like that, but he was like, if you want to race, you work on them, unless you got deep pockets. And I love that about it, because I have the cars I have today is because of what he taught us. Is you work on them, you get your hands dirty, you learn what you did right and wrong on them, and you make them faster. And I love that about it.
So is he similar? You know, again, I know of Roy and all this stuff and how skilled he is as a welder, fabricator, everything else. Was he hands-on with engines and mechanical stuff, or is that something that that he relied on other people and the team around him?
No, my dad's like me. My brother could build a motor and use about 2 silicone tubes of caulking to put a motor together and
use that yellow submarine one there.
reuse the gaskets.
Yeah,
and,
we got a spare motor for my
yeah.
stock car.
My brother, I
It's
tell
like,
you.
what the hell is this? He's
Yeah.
like, oh, it's great.
Yeah. He goes, hey, there's a used head gasket over on the shelf. Go get it. And he put a motor together. We blew up so many motors back in 95 and 6. We blew up 7 that year. And what he did is he took all the parts that were good from each motor and he built it. And we put it in one of our cars, and I was racing it. And Neil, I guess they were standing by Neil, and they were telling Neil, he goes, my brother has $40 into this. And he actually had to buy an intake gasket. He used reused head gaskets. He used all this. And Neil, there's no way you got $40 in this motor. And I was catching Jeff. Jeff won. I finished second. It was pretty cool just to hear that story afterwards. But my brother could build motors. Yeah, he's just one of those guys. But my brother's not a chassis guy. My brother's not like the welder like my dad is. And I'm more like my dad in that sense, where I like setting up cars. I hang bodies. I get the setup to where I learned that part of it. I never learned to build the motors. And my dad had a great guy back then, Bobby Collins. That was in the 90s and all that stuff. And Bobby built great motors. That guy... There wasn't even a dust in his shop. Everything was so clean, organized, just like Neil Montgomery. If you ever go watch Neil build a motor, everything's just down to a T. And
that should be a TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But back in the day, my dad had with John Kopp back in the 70s and early 81, before the economy went bad back then. He had Baker motors. They had one in the car, one back at Baker. And I tell you, the racing they got to do because of John Kopp, Garden City Auto. He was a great man. When I first started racing, I started actually in '86 was my first race car. But before then, me and Dale Robinson, we built like a snowball derby wooden go-kart. But ours was not like the one Guy Barrett's dad built him. Guy Barrett's dad built him a proper one. That the skinny tires, like it was meant to go. Like
he read an article too and was like, "Hey, let's build this."
We're going to set a land speed
Oh
record
yeah,
with
the
this
one
thing.
that Guy Barrett's dad built him. It was nice. Me and Dale, we just took some old 2x4s and we took like 3/8 plywood and we got some rope and we had the fastest car down in Phelps subdivision, and nobody had beat us until Guy Barrett's dad built this like nice car or nice go-kart. And so I painted it black. I put a wing on the back of it. And I had Garden City on it. John Kopp came to our house one day, and he was my first sponsor I ever got. He gave me $5.
Nice.
It was bitching.
Awesome. And then they had a plaque on the street sign and all that stuff.
We were coming down that hill. We had people make sure cars. And my grandpa built. This is like my grandpa. I wish he could have lived a little bit longer. He passed away when we were 15 years old. Like my grandpa, he was, I don't know, man. I think he could have helped us. maybe put people in the right direction. Maybe, hey, go talk to, maybe, I don't know, but he knew a lot of people, and he was pretty smart when it came to stuff. Like when the satellites came, he got into it. He owned Mercury Marines. Dick Midgley owns Mercury Marines. Bought it from my grandpa. Dick's a great guy. I helped him out in the West Cars, and he's a great guy. I love talking about or asking people about my grandpa, because I didn't get to get that in my teens, like my late teens, like 17, 18, because he passed away when we were 15. But when we were at the racetrack, he would always ask us, are you learning? And I said, yeah, we are. I'm learning, Grandpa. Like my grandpa went to Vegas with my dad, and when they went back in 76, they ran the open comp. And I run the open comp. I haven't ran it in the last couple of years, but it's still the same open comp that I race now that my dad started back in 75. Like the Mark Martin was there, Dick Trickle was there. You can go Joe Ruttman. Like you can just go on and on. Larry Deachens was like, you just go on the drivers, and it's just like, holy crap! Like those guys were like the top of on their game back in those days. And you just look back and you go, this guy went to Cup, this guy went to Cup, this guy went to Cup, and it's like, well, my dad's racing, winning against these guys and doing well, and it's like, but my dad just didn't.
Connection.
He just didn't go. He could have. But it was pretty cool.
So you mentioned here. So whose cars was this? Is the Irwindale you said? Or
no,
it's Evergreen.
Evergreen.
Yeah, that's the Winston West car. I got to actually. My dad got to race some Winston West, not like Roy Smith. Roy Smith was badass in that Winston West car, even like the sprint cars and stuff. And Roy won those 4 championships. And so a friend of mine, you guys know him, Ron J. So Ron J is a wheeler dealer. He's a great guy. And he made this deal happen. He had 9 races. And Ron asked me to come and help him, and Melvin Pallister to come and help. So we went and we got to race Winston West because of Ron J. Like it was, me and Ron had so much fun. I thank him like for giving me that opportunity. We went to California, like to Madera, down there in California, do some testing, and then we got to go to Lake Havasu, and then Ron says, well, look, you can run these 2 races, and I'm like, really? He goes, yeah. So I got some sponsors, thanks to Alpine Stu Young, and then I got to race the Bull Ring, because that's where I used to race. The Bull Ring's like my second home track, or home track like Western Speedway is, and then I got to race Evergreen. And if it wasn't for Ron, I would have never ran at Winston West. We always started at the back. We always worked our way up to a 12th place. We're always coming forward, but something would always fall off. Like it was, the cars are rentals. So you're not getting a good car that's going to be, okay, you got a good car. If you go from the back to the front, okay, it's going to stay there. So there was parts and stuff falling off the car during the race. Like we're at Monroe. We started back and we got up to 12th, I think, somewhere around there. And then all of a sudden, my dad's helped me, Melvin's helped me, Jeff Robinson, my brother. We're coming in for pit stops. So we come in, and I said, okay, raise the panhard bar. We're tight in the center, so they raised it up. So we go back out. You start back at the back of the pack, and you start going through, and all of a sudden, okay, another yellow come out. So we'd come back in, okay, do another one. That helped it. So we'd do another one. And then all of a sudden, it's like, okay, come back in. We came back 4 times. Well, the first time it helped. Well, the other 3 or 4 times, it didn't do nothing. I'm like, you guys, like, you going the right way? Because you have radios. And they're going, well, we're doing it. So we came in for another pit stop. When Robbie went underneath, Jeff turned the wrench, and the panhard bar adjuster's broken. So they've been turning the car, and it's not doing nothing, right? I was like, holy crap. So then we put a little turn in the right rear spring to help it. And after the race, during the race, I go to my dad, because he was spotting for me. It's the best thing that, when I was racing, when I first started racing, my dad, I can't say he wasn't there for me, but when you're racing, you have to put your all into what you're doing. You can't be focused on doing this if you want to win races. And that's what my dad did. It was about my dad. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, I do it now. Like, you focus on yourself. And if you want to win races, that's what you had to do. And when I was talking earlier, is that my dad would help me if I asked for help, like the welding and stuff like that. But he wouldn't stop and put his stuff to the side and say, okay, well, we're going to help you. It wasn't like that, because if he did that, he wouldn't win the championships and all the races that he won, because he's losing focus and doing it on. So I quit for a while. But anyways, get back to here. He is my spotter. And it's pretty cool because he helps me out spotting now with the late model. And so we're racing, And I go, Dad, the thing's pogo sticking on the right front. And he goes, like what? And I said, like a pogo stick. It's like bouncing up and down in the corners. And I was like, oh. So we just like, okay, we'll just do some other changes. We finished, I don't know, 16th or 17th. We come in, the owner of the car, for some reason, opens up the hood because a fan wants to see what kind of motor's in these cars. And he comes over and he goes, come here for a second. We walk over there and here's this shock. Ding, 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 ding. The right front's right off the car. It's like, holy smokes. But I'll give Ron J credit, man. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have had those 2 races. I got to race 2 times, but he got to do a lot more races. And we did good with him in there. We finished 10th.
It's like, where's Waldo watching his Facebook page? Like,
Yeah.
he's hauling this car there, that car there, and doing this and working there. You're just like,
yeah, it was fun.
Dealing, love it.
Yeah, it was good. I want to do that one more time. I actually had Jason White on here the last episode, and I actually called him to. I wanted to rent a Canadian Tire car. I forget what they're called, the Pinty series now.
Yeah.
And he was trying to work out something for me, but I didn't want to spend that much money right now because I got my super late on the go. And so if I take my money that from my race team and I do this one deal, then when it comes back to my racing, I don't have anything, and I just didn't have the money. And so it was nice of him to go out of his way to try to make a deal happen. But I want to do the Winston West again. The shocks are the same, but the springs, we didn't have the good springs, the Renton springs, and it'd be nice just to work on the car yourself so that you know that nothing's bolts and stuff aren't taking off the chassis.
Get your button gear and get Mikey a car that's had a bolt checked on it.
Round 2, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so we're moving on here. We have the transition back kind of to the island here, and you managed to go open wheel racing. So, you came back from Vegas, and opportunity came up, then the opportunity went away, and then you created your own opportunity, I think, with the help of Dale Robinson here with this 22 car.
Yeah, when I first came back, I didn't race when I first came back in 2008. I'd go out there, and then I met this guy named Dan Myers. He ran a stock car, and I helped him. He owns the
Red 50.
Yeah, Red 50. He owns the.
It's a nice car.
Yeah, he built himself, not knowing racing or anything. Built it just by looking at other people's cars, and he did a beautiful job. I told him after that year, I says, in the wintertime, you need to cut your whole chassis off your car. And he looks at me, what? I says, yeah, you did a beautiful job, but it needs to go back 4 or 5 inches. And he's like, what? I said, yeah, we need to move the chassis way back, or the cage back. And so he did it. I helped him. He did most of the work, and we moved it back. And it was fun helping him. It was bringing back the old days of the Thunder cars, because now they're called stock cars. Nothing's changed, really. And then, so I helped him. And then a guy named Shane Wilcox he got into the non-wing, the Will Rock non-wing series. My brother drove this car, Dale Robinson's car. And then Dale, they stopped, and they were doing other things. But Dale still had this car. He was putting it back together slowly. Shane, I got to meet him through construction. And he always used to drive by our place. He told me back then that, I'd love to be like in that place, and because it's race cars, right? And he liked the race cars, so I got to be friends with him back then. And he couldn't go to a race, so it was pretty cool. It was my grandparents' race, the Jim and Lorraine Haslam non-wing race. So he let me race it. We finished 5th. I did up some pretty cool numbers, the 22s, with my grandparents, and in the pictures with Billy Foster, and then a guy named Todd Ickes. I used to do his drywall, and he came and helped. I said, hey, you want to go? Because he was a sprint car guy. And he came, and then after that, he was talking to Dave Smith, and they own the 22 Motorsports car, and said, hey, we're going to buy a car. So do you want to drive it? I said, really? And they go, yeah. So, and that didn't last long, but we won a big race. We won the Strawberry Cup, and that was pretty damn cool to win that race. I've won it again after that, but after that race, they went their own separate ways, and we were doing good in the point. So I knew Dale was building this car, putting it back together. So I asked him. I said, "Hey, can I finish? We have a car. Me and my dad bought one, but I said it's not ready to go. Is there any chance we can use your car?" So he hung up, called me back within 2 seconds. He goes, "Dude, you know why I hung up the phone?" He goes, "Yeah, go ahead." And we just clicked. Like, it was so much. We had like 10 guys working on that car. We had so much fun. We won the championship. Reason why we won the championship there is because I paid for the number, and so the points were mine. I was smart back then and said, I'm going to pay for it in case anything happened. I don't own the car. So they could fire you tomorrow. Well, they take the points. Well, guess what? I was pretty smart. So I kept the points, and so the points went with me, and then we won the champion. We won 2 or 3 races.
So that was 2013, right?
Yes. Yeah, 2013 we won the race, or the championship, the Will Rock Racing. That was a good car. It's still out there. It's a fast car. It's got a lot of wins under it.
So then, I'm not sure the timeline. It was a little hard to sort of track, looking some photos and stuff up. So the late models, you're kind of coming back and forth. Maybe made a deal with Bam Bam from Penticton and drove his 17 car. Was that, what year was that? It was a Katana car, so it might have been like 2010 range?
Yeah, probably 2009.
So you came back, you drove that first, and then got a win. Okay.
Yeah. We drove, you seen the picture of that car.
Yeah, and I was going to say, how did that go?
It was, it's pretty cool for him to ask me to drive it. The throttle is stuck. And they're like, we can't see, there's nothing. So I went down the back stretch. It was the Canada 200. I haven't had no luck in the Canada 200. I've been wrecked so many times in that. So it's been 3 wrecks, I think, now.
Yeah, I went to look up your other crash,
Yeah.
the car behind you.
Yeah.
And this one came up
Yeah.
in turn 3, in the same spot, with about the same many body panels left in the
Yeah,
car.
this one here, I went down the back chute, and the guy from Vancouver, and I can hear him, right? And I can hear the motor, and I'm like, okay, I'm on the brakes, trying to do something, and then the guy went on the outside of me, and I'm like, don't go there, and so I took him, and he jumped over, I spun out, and he went right over, ripped pretty much the whole body off the car, and everybody was running over, and because it just looked so bad, right? And I'm sitting there, like, hey, I'm fine, and I get out, and I'm like, holy crap, no wonder why people are wondering if I was alive or not.
Yeah.
So they towed it back in. This is the coolest thing I ever done in my life. So they towed this car back in. You can look at it. It looks like...
It'll be on YouTube in a couple weeks if
Yeah,
you want to look it up there, and we'll zoom in and try to get a little bit of
Oh, yeah. The roof is gone.
Yeah, you can see that the looks like a roof. That's the hood on
Yeah.
backwards on the roof.
The hood actually looks mint.
Oh, yeah.
That's
It
$800
was.
still mint.
So, Bam Bam, I went up to him and I said, hey, there's not much wrong with this race car. I said, I'm going to put it back together. And my dad or somebody come in, why? And I said, I'm going to tell you why. I says, we're going to have all the fans at Western Speedway that sit in the grandstands are going to come and look at our race car after the race. I says, you're not going to tell me you want to come and look at this car? It just got in this big total wreck, and now it's racing still. So we went out. Dirk was held. I think Malvin was there. There was a whole bunch of us. We went and got a radiator. We put everything back in, fired it right back up. I went to Bam Bam. If we lose oil pressure or if anything happens, I'll pull in. So I go out there, and I'm racing. Well, I went back out and started doing more laps. The end of the race, there was no roof. I put my hand right up through the cage, and I'm waving to the guys down the front stretch. Oh, my God. People came over after the race, and they were like, holy crap, man, we thought you were dead in that car. The car went right up over top of me. Like, it was just like a Evel Knievel jump or... Yeah, it looked worse a lot than what it was. They fixed the car. A lot of it was just more like body damage and stuff like that.
Cosmetics, man.
Yeah. Bam Bam's a good guy. They run Penticton Speedway, him and Johnny, and it was fun. We got to race that car again later on. With your dad, actually, we were up in Williams Lake. We went up there. We finished 4th, and we're almost like a NASCAR team up there. We did so many pit stops up there. It was pretty cool. Your dad still talks about that today.
It's a common theme for you to keep coming in, and that's one thing you do a lot. You do, practice night or different things. Dave Everson talked about you coming and helping him out as well, and setups. Like, it seems like that's sort of your passion, is that keep tinkering and trying something different with setups. You help my car. We try something. I'm like, what? Just didn't work. You're like, okay, hold on a second. You go and you try a couple of different things. You're like, okay, that did this. This should happen. And all of a sudden, it's like, it's exactly right. Dale Taylor was another one that sort of had that knack where it's not necessarily exactly what the book says, but you're reading what the car is doing, the track's doing, what other cars are doing. There's a photo of you and your brother at the beginning there, but that look, the Haslam look of like, what's happening over there, and how can we make our car go faster? And that's something where I think one of the reasons why it doesn't matter what you put either you or your brother in, you seem to be fast at it because you kind of figure it out. So, with that, you move into something with a better body on it.
Actually, yeah, this car here, it's a nice body because we put a lot of work into this. It was the who owned it was number.
It was Blue 88,
Yeah.
and then the guy had a little get together with Aaron Wilkie on the front.
Yeah, that car got.
Took the fenders
Is it
off
Morris
of it.
car?
No.
Dan
No,
Moore?
it
88.
might have. It might.
Who's the car that Mike Mears drives for now? The 20.
You're asking me about
Oh,
facts.
Nick Wise.
That
Nick
was. I
Weisel?
think it was his second car.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I think it was him. Anyways, Phil Lagan, he's a great friend of mine. I met him through Vern Bordeaux and Ron J. And we had so much fun with Phil. So anyways, we're going to get back to a story about a car. I don't know if you have this up here, but so this car here, Phil was offered it like a good deal. And he asked me, he goes, what about it? So we went and tested it one day, and I said, well, you know what, it's a left-hander, I'm not really keen. And then I found out it had a port city, so somebody did some work on it. It just needed to be gone through and cleaned up, because it just looked like it's been through the ringer. So when Phil bought it, we went through the whole thing, cleaned it all up. We didn't redo the chassis yet, but we put the new body on it and made it look nice. And so getting back, so Phil ran the Can 200. He's never raced these cars before, right? So, and he did a good job for a guy that's never been into racing. Like, he ran demos, and then they bought a stock car. I don't know if you have the picture of the stock car. I have it, but I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
So when I went there to go help him, and this is the Canada 200 weekend, and that's when the street stocks came out with their invitational. So there's like 24 something cars here. So I go help him on a Friday night, and he's like, here, you drive it. And I said, I'm not driving. I'm coming to help you. And he goes, well, I got this stock car in the shop. Do you want to drive it then? And I'm like, it needs a bit of work. And I'm like, okay. So we went and looked at this car. You should see this. I posted it not long ago. There was no motor in it. There was no transmission. There's no body panels on it. The rear end, the trailing arms are all bent. And Tyler Clough, me, Andrew, and there's some other guys that are, we stayed up 24 hours and we rebuilt this car. And we came back the next day and we're ready to race. And Phil came and he was amazed. He goes, holy crap, you guys got that thing together. So we go to the racetrack and we go test or practice for the race. We're P1 on the on the board against all these cars that have been racing all year long. We built this car from 10 o'clock at night to go to the races the next day. We actually woke up at 6 o'clock, we're done. So we go to Denny's, and our heads are right down on the table. The waitress is coming. Are you guys okay? Oh my God, we just built this race car. And so we went out, we got P1.
Okay, do you want food or not?
Oh, it was pretty cool.
I actually remember we were driving back from, I think might have been practice. It was practice night that Phil was out. And I remember seeing it being towed up here and thinking, like, there's no way that thing. And then I was talking to Mike in the front straight the next night. Yeah,
we finished second there. We got taken out, and we had to come from the back. And we finished second overall in points the next night. And so the funny thing is, though, is that car was just wore right out. So Phil's son, Sam, so he wanted to do some more racing. So they went and got the car. Sam came out the next year or something. There might have been one more race after championship night, I think it was. So Sam goes out there and he goes and races the car, and it just broke. The rear end just snapped. He was done. Like, everything was like the 200 just made it. Like, we would have never got no more laps. I felt so bad for him because the car was so fast, but it broke on him. He couldn't do nothing no more. It's just like, holy. So we're lucky to finish where we did.
Good to have that, the 200. I blew up a rear end coming across the start finish line, let off, and then rear end blew, spun right out. That's the only time that something's broken. Yeah. Perfectly timed.
At least you weren't like Robbie and forgot to put oil in the rear end.
I've done. So I was 15 when we started racing stock cars. I have no idea how to work on cars. Dad goes, check all the fluids. Like, he's got a system to go through. Like, just bolt check we have on the wall. You check it off. Fluids you go through. So I'm left to my own devices. I'm like, okay, I'll go change the oil. So drain the oil. And then I think I asked maybe Colin Cooper or something, how much oil do I put in? And so we figured out with the extra pan, whatever, 6.5%, whatever the quarts is. So then Dad comes out, checks the oil, and it's like all the way up on the dipstick. And he's like, what did you do? How much did you put in? And I was like, I asked Colin, like, he's a mechanic, you know. So it turns out, I drained the transmission fluid out and then poured engine oil in. Couldn't figure out why the thing like barely started. The car wouldn't go into gear. So then I had to get my buddy James Campbell to come to mechanics. I was just left in the car, wasn't allowed to touch anything. So going forward here, if I can find it.
Yeah, that car is the late model. It's the same car that Phil ran. We just went through it. We actually stripped it right down, thanks to ProComp. Dave Smith. They did a beautiful job on the chassis. They repowdered, coated it for us, and so we just went through it. It's a beautiful car. It's fast. Looking forward to racing it this year with all the guys. There's a lot of cars coming out for this series this year, so that's a nice car there. That car is pretty bitchin'.
Yeah, we're talking about, you ran Dale's car, and then you said you bought your own, and we're looking at it right now, and that thing was pretty good to you, even after a little bit of an incident that required some finessing of the chassis, let's just say.
Yeah, when the right front wheel breaks, it's you go straight in the turn 4 wall head on, full speed pretty much. You know what? I walked away from it, had all the proper safety equipment, and I walked away from it. And so when that happened, we took it to Dale Robinson, and he reclipped the whole front end on it. And then Tyler is a great guy. He's always been on my side. He's, Mike, this car's here for you for a backup if everything ever goes wrong. And he jumped out and he let me race his car until we got this thing back. And we went and raced it up at Saratoga when we first got it back together. And it was just, the car was so far off. We were just a car count. And we were going to go to Wenatchee a week later, 2 weeks later. And we just found some stuff that wasn't right. So we had to retake it and redo it. And Dale made it right. And then, so we went and tested before we went to Wenatchee, and it's like, holy crap, okay, we got the car back. Like, sometimes when you crash a car, it's like, okay, it's done. But sometimes when you get them, they're almost better than what they are brand new. They get their tweaks and stuff into the chassis, and this car just came alive right after that accident.
I see. Yeah, a few victories in that one. So you had first championship 2013. So a picture from 16, you won the off-island championship, third in points. See, look at all these stats I read, I'm taking my
doing your
vitamins
homework.
and some nootropics here, thanks to Joe Rogan.
You're learning from Cole.
Yeah, exactly. I figured stepping the game up. And then 17, 18, 19, 3 in a row.
Yes.
Just dominating out there with some other great cars. Where do you see this class going? It's getting stronger. We're getting people come up through the ranks. Do you think it's sustainable with the sort of lesser classes not having the people backing it?
I love this class. I wasn't a sprint car guy back in my day. My dad always, people call them taxi cars, and that's what I was born and raised into. My grandpa was in open wheel, but I love the body cars. I still do. And so when you watched like Trevor and Jeff go through the sprint car racing, and it just never turned me on really back then. And then when I came home and I drove that 08 car, and it's like, holy crap, these things are actually pretty cool. It's fun. It's up to the driver. It's not all about the money like the wing cars. Like, you got to finesse and be smooth, and so I love it. I love that class. They're changing some of the rules, and I wasn't going to race this year because I didn't want to spend a bunch of money on it for right now. I just thought maybe down the road that we can do it. It's what they wanted to do. It's great. It's a great class. But
was that pretty gung-ho? It looked like they changed the rules. You kind of screw it, kind of pouting a little bit. Was it? How did you feel about the rule change coming in? Because it seems to open up the horsepower quite a bit. And it's like the stock cars. It's like, if you're going to have a sportsman class, create a sportsman class, like a hybrid between the two. Because this is like an easy way to get into this, and then it seems like they've opened it up. Were you pissed off about that rule change, or kind of what were your feelings on that?
Here you got a guy right here. I think he's one of the best announcers that came. When you're announcing these races, it's side-by-side racing, isn't it?
Yeah. I think the lights class is one of the best classes out there, car count wise, and excitement level.
Exactly,
definitely.
And it keeps you on your toes as an announcer, because you got to be. You can watch the front of the back.
The one time I took a bathroom break during Strawberry Cup, and I came out as Chris McInerney and he was cartwheeling down the back street. Yeah.
But the reason why they changed the rule is they're sprint cars. They're on methanol, and they should have been on methanol right from the get-go. That's my say on it. But they didn't. So we've ran so many years, and everybody lightly is, fires, and you know what? My car's safe. I feel safe when I go into it. I got all the proper stuff. Methanol can still catch on gas. It's the right thing to do, but to make someone spend a whole bunch of money for the next year, like they should have said, okay, in a couple of years, okay, start collecting, buy the carburetor that we're going to change to, buy the fuel cell, because it costs money. It can cost you up to $3,000. I can go lose a race tomorrow the way my car is right now. Now, if I go to race when we get going back here, I don't have a hope in hell to keep up, because the methanol, it's better for the motors, so the motors put out way more power, so you're going to gain 30, 40, 50, we don't really know, but you're going to gain at least 30 horsepower. So what I have right now, I'm a car count, and when I go to the racetrack, I'm never a car count.
Yeah,
I want to win
saying
races.
that setups are going to be massive, and it's going to be a big leap for some guys.
So add, say, 30, 40 horsepower to a car that's already right now that people are got control, kind of, some of them.
Sometimes.
Now you add more power, it's going to make it worse. So the racing is going to change. It might take a while to get the racing to where everybody's calmed down and they got used to the power ratio, to the weight ratio of these cars. Right now, when I talked to Chief Neil Montgomery, and him and Jeff, when they were talking, he says these cars, what we have for motors, are the best thing for weight ratio to power. They're not too twitchy. You can control them,
So
but you
makes
can
them stable kind of thing.
yeah, you can get out of control, but if you're smooth and stuff, you're good to go. So down the road, we're going to get a carburetor. We're going to do the work. I just like the class. I think it's great. It's so much, like you had Jeff Montgomery, you had Guy Barrett, Ryan Orchard that was in there. You got Gary Smith in the 22 car now, and you know Gary, he's been racing for a long time. He's a little bit older than me, but he's been around.
Shot fired.
Yeah. No, it's good. I like racing against Gary, and I told him when he was testing that car, they had a whole bunch of people in that car. It was like put a driver in, take a driver out, and he was one of them, and I told him, I said, I hope you get to race it, because I would like to race against Gary. It just comes from a racing family, and Gary's a good race car driver, and it's just nice, like Jeff Montgomery, Guy Barrett, they're good race car. They had dads, and they came from our era where you had to be, like, you had to save your equipment, you can go wreck people, so you put on a good show for the fans, and that's what I like. You had to work on it to beat them, and so it's a good class. I hope that everything will come together like in a short time instead of a long time, but I just didn't want to spend the money right now.
So, yeah, winning tons here. I can't remember this trophy.
The Reg Midgley Memorial. I think
That was
the
championship
season
night.
ender.
Championship,
championship
and
night.
then, you see the picture here. There's like
The Strawberry
one
Cup,
Hazy and two big chunks of wood. Amazing trophies here.
it's
5 feet
these
tall.
trophies though, like you got the Billy Foster 100, I won it. I finally won the Gary Kershaw one. Gary Kershaw was like my grandparents' best friends back in the day. Like it's just, and now I get to put my name on his trophy. Billy Foster, I got to put my name on that trophy a couple times. So as a racer growing up, I didn't get to watch Billy. I probably got to watch Kershaw, but I was too young to remember. So for you to put your name on their trophies that we're racing for, there's nothing like it.
That's awesome.
Now we're taking a look here at a picture. I actually remember this night. Unfortunately, I'm looking really pale in the back.
Yeah, that's
I
a
think
fancy
that's
little necktie
well,
you got there,
that
fella.
was what they. That's what they gave me the first year or so that I was there, so that I wouldn't get kicked out of the pits, or people would know or think I was an official. Actually, Brad Purdy was hiding from me the first night I went to go talk to him because he thought I was an official.
Oh,
Yeah, but we're looking right now at the wing car you got to drive. You got to run the Rendell Brothers car when they were kind of in between drivers the one year. And you mentioned, like in the lights class, you got the taste of having all that power and all that. What was it like to run one of those?
well, before we get to that, let's get back to you being an announcer at Western Speedway. I tell you, when we raced, you and your family would come up and say hi to me. I looked at Stacy and I go, "Who's this kid?" I didn't know you when I first met you. You've been around, your dad's helped out people, and I just went, that was cool for him to come up, man. And then Stacy goes, "That's our announcer." Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot, right? It's just like, I forget what I did yesterday, and it's like, I like stuff like that. Like when you come around, say hi. It just reminds me of like Robbie Dunn with my dad. They used to go racing. Well, with Reg Midgley, when he was announcing, but he was a track promoter. Like he would, Dad and them later on would race in the series he had, but he would go to some of those, like, down to the States with Dad, and I just like stuff like that. It's pretty cool. It's but getting to you, you're doing a great job. Getting back to the wing car, they put a couple of people's names in the hat, and they said my name kept coming up, so I was pretty honored for.
So we're looking at the 14, the Rendell car.
Yeah, Gordon Rod. They
Gordon
came
Rod,
up to me. They called me and said, "Hey, we want to talk." And I'm not a sprint car guy. I'm just not. And when I went into the non-wing, maybe something was there that they liked, and so they asked me. So it was an honor for them to ask me, because I am not a sprint car guy. And when I got into that car, it was. It took me. We went out and tested, and by being on a wing car, everything's different. So. The harder you go in, the faster you are, the better off the chassis. You got so much downforce. With our light cars, it's the opposite. You go in nice and easy, get the car turned, you come up off. Well, these cars, I was going in. My brother's there. He's got to race a couple of cars with Monty, with Chris Smelsley back in the day, and Daryl Crocker was there. And I asked those guys' opinion because I know they've been around racing, and my brother's raced these cars. And I said, "Hey, what am I?" He goes, "Going harder." He goes, "The harder you go, the better off it is." And then once I got the hang of it. It was fun. It was a blast. Like, those cars are. Another reason why this happened, the 14 car, was I guess Little Daryl, Big Daryl, Midgley, and Little Daryl Crocker. I call him Little Daryl, and Randy Price. They were the ones who said, "Hey, put Mike Haslam in that car," and so I thank them. There's probably some other people that might have said, "Hey, give him a try," and we did good. I still get a little mad at myself. I can't get too mad because I didn't know. With the wing, when you get behind somebody, the dirty air is huge. Like, the cars will just jot back and forth, like, if you don't have the downforce. So getting into clean air, just like what NASCAR is, when you get that clean air, it's night and day. And I was going to take the lead out of turn 2, and I was on the outside, but where I was, he took the air off my front, and my right rear smacked the tire, and Dale Taylor thinks that the tire debeaded and popped back on going down the back chute, because it took me 3 laps to get going again. At least 3. You could see the car getting loose. The 14 got by me. Somebody else got by. Oh, Matt Hines got by me, and then things started rolling again, and then I finished 3rd, I think, that night. But if that tire, if I would have known what you needed to do, then I could have been. You got to be aggressive.
So it's just a little more like you just can't wait. As soon as you go, you just, as you're coming out, you can't just kind of get position and go. You tee them up, get past.
I was being too smooth, and you have to be really, really. That's why Trevor's not racing now, but it'd be cool to see him back. Trevor was aggressive in him, just like Jeff. But Trevor and Jeff, there's a time to be aggressive and smooth, and aggressive and smooth, and that's what Jeff and Trevor were, or they are. So you just got to know when to. It's almost like that country song of The Gambler. You got to know when to hold them, know when to go, right?
Yeah.
So
Trevor was amazing, just who he was without the helmet on.
Yeah.
And then put the helmet on. We're gonna convince him to come on here. So if
that'd be
you're
cool.
on Trevor's Facebook, shoot him a bunch of messages.
Start sending him some DMs. Get him.
I'll tell you a little story about Trevor. So where Robbie lives now, Neil bought a house off my grandpa, a piece of property. Well, Jeff and Trevor used to live in front of Robbie's house. So me and Jeff and Trevor, Yvonne, we grew up together. My dad, Neil, were best friends, I guess, back in school. So I was born on the 9th. Jeff was born on the 19th, and Trevor's 1 year older than us. So we were born and raised, and we hung out, and we all grew up together. So when they got into sprint car racing, they sure took off when they got into that series.
And you mentioned the Montgomery connection. You got a cool opportunity at Strawberry and Daffodil last year to hop behind the wheel of the second 33J and do double duty. How was that jumping between the non-wing car and the wing car?
Well, like I said, Neil and my dad were good friends, best friends, I guess, back. And then me and Jeff, same Trevor and all that stuff. And for somebody that owns a sprint car or a race car to ask you to drive a race car, it's an honor. Yeah, I take it to heart, and I want to do the best job I can for them. And so I've raced against Jeff. I've raced against Trevor my whole life. Now I know why they had better motors. I know why they won a lot of races, because it was their dad sitting there tweaking. And Jeff and Trevor are good drivers, so they just took the good and made it better. And I didn't have an engine builder like my dad, but my dad was a chassis guy, so I would kind of make it up on chassis. But when I drove that car, it's like, holy crap. Even the Rendells, the motors they have, those two cars, they're the top notch, the best in the business on this island, and wherever they go, they're the 3 guys like Trevor. They're the best to beat.
So Rendell's, they run Sharks. I believe?
Yes.
And
Chief builds his
Chief's
own
builds
right in
everything,
his
yeah.
garage, and so when I got to drive this, and they asked me, and Neil came up to me after one of the races, he goes, "Hey, I got to talk to you," and I said, "Okay," and he goes, "Hey, I'm thinking about bringing the 33 car out," and he goes, "Hey, nothing's written in stone, but we're if we do, I'd like you to drive it," and I'm like, "Are you serious?" And he goes, "Yeah." I give him a big old hug. I go, "Really?" And so it's an honor, and I tell you what, we had so much fun. We got third again, third, and I hate third. I got to get a second or a first or something like those deals.
So sort of the family connection still, getting the girls into go-kart racing here. Is it something you kind of sprung on them, or something they were looking at, kind of wanted to do, or what happened there?
Well, my dad never pressured us to race. He if you want to race, then go race. But he never told us you're going to be a race car driver, or you're going to do this. He never did that. So we never did that with him. When I came back, I got the go-kart, and then I bought the motor. So it was sitting here. It's meant for 5 to 8-year-olds. And I asked her one day, I said, "Hey, do you want to try that go-kart?" And she's like, "Yeah." She did good. Courtney did an awesome job in the go-karts too. My daughter's got into 4-H. She shows cows. So right now she's doing all that, showing the cows. She's not doing any of the go-karts anymore. I asked her last year if she wanted to try the go-kart, because of course she's 14 now. Back then she's 8 or something. So I asked her, I got an adult go-kart, and I said, "Do you want to race it?" And she goes, "No." And so I let Malvin's granddaughter, Janelle, race it. And then this one here, Chris Root's kid has it right now. So I let people use my go-karts because it's 15 to $2,000, and some parents might not have the money to go out there and say, "Hey, look, Cole, let's go race." "Well, Mom, Dad, I don't like it." "Well, they just spent $1,500. No, they got this. They can probably get their money back, but that's a lot of money for a family.
Yeah.
So I said, "Look, you can use the go-kart. If you wreck it, just fix it." And I do that with all my go-karts to try to help. But that's where the next generation comes from. I never raced go-karts when I was younger. My brother did. He went back to Toronto, did an awesome. He had a chance to win, I think, one of the nationals right there, but he got taken out, I think, on the second to last lap to go for the win.
I was searching for some of your photos and stuff last couple of days, and saw that picture. He had a little news write-up and stuff, and that he had that good flow going on. And
Roy Bryden took him back there to Toronto, and he did an awesome job. But Robbie got in the go-karts. I never did. I just started racing. But
so
the go-karts
who
are
took
good.
him? Who took him back?
Roy Bryden.
And he was like a go-kart guy or something?
Yeah,
What's,
back then. But he was around racing and stuff. But he was right into the go-karts. So yeah, I never got into it. My dad did it for a while. But the go-karts are a great way for people. I think I want her to get into racing. I'm not pushing her. I want her to get her a Hornet car. I want her to get her into something before she starts driving, because I really think it helps you on the road. Getting cut off or doing this, you have car control. Or if something happens, you got this stent. Okay, I'm going to turn left or turn right to miss an accident or something.
It's a defensive. It's like a 4-year defensive driving course.
And I just think that a lot of people, with Western Speedway, maybe getting sold this. It's just the Willies. Maybe they know, maybe they don't. But how much Western Speedway helps young kids to get for driving, for working wise, working with money, working with other people.
Communicating.
That's my
building.
first job was
Yeah.
Western Speedway. So I made $365 an hour. That was my first job working there. But I think the racing part of it helps you on the road. Not to where you go speed and do all that. That's not that's what the race
It's almost
track's for.
reverse. It teaches that if you go fast and hit the wall, it hurts, and you don't do it. David Smith from Shockwave Motorsports and Shockwave Seats, we had him on here a couple episodes ago, and he was talking about the exact same thing.
Yeah.
It's about, he's a little bit older than yourself, that sort of the generation back where that's what you're doing. You're taking the cars off the street, you're fixing them up, you're doing what you can, you get out there, and that's where you learn how to shift and drive, and that's where you go on the Saturday night, so you're not doing drinking and partying too much. So I think it's I'm hopeful that Western stays, and maybe we could put some warehouses around there, or someone comes in and makes some money and build up some of the area so that you don't have the noise traveling up to Bear Mountain.
Yeah.
You still make a shit ton of money off warehousing.
Yeah.
There's an industrial
Storage
park
units
on the backside there. So if someone's listening with a bunch of money,
there you go.
we got some ideas.
There's an empty gravel pit you can build. You can storage facility.
Tons.
Beautiful storage facility.
Mr. Willie built that place to what it is. When he bought it from Andy Cotton, he put the water slides in and he kept the racetrack. He had bulldozers at Western Speedway. I worked for him back in the day with Donnie when Donnie was helping. Donnie ran the water slides for Mr. Willie. And I went and worked for him. We did turn 3, or not, yeah, we did some work in turn 3. We did 1 and 2. We redid the drainage and stuff. I learned how to drive a dump truck. I learned how to use an excavator. I learned a lot of stuff because of Mr. Willie because he had all the equipment there. And he built the racetrack to where it is. And I'll tell you a little story about Frank. So when I was working there, there's all these logs. And they're like 6-inch logs, maybe 7-inch. And I don't know, they're 15, 20 feet long. And Donnie goes, okay, go move those logs, put them in the dump truck. You could take them over there. I said, okay. So I started grabbing them, ready to start. He goes, no. Grab the Bobcat. I learned how to use the Bobcat. So I pick them all up, throw them in there, and I'm looking, and Frank's over there on his excavator doing something, and he's one of the hardest working people I ever met. He was there at 7 o'clock, hitting those hammers, and it's like, holy crap, it's 7 o'clock, Frank. And it's even a Sunday. And it's like, holy.
Yeah, but your parents' house was the closest house to the racetrack, so it was fine.
So he was walking over me like a pit bull, just like head down, walking, and I'm looking, and I'm just using the Bobcat, or the backhoe, sorry, and I'm looking and going, holy shit, he's coming towards me. And I'm like, moving, and I'm like, oh, he's getting closer. And he's like, he comes and starts yelling at me. I'm 78 years old, and I can throw, he picks the thing up and just whips it right in the back of the
Oh, he's pissed off
truck.
using machinery.
Yeah, he's so mad at me. So I jump out, and I go, Mr. Willie, and he's, I'm there. I go, Mr. Willie, and Mr. Willie, hey, and he's just yelling, like, just the way he was, right? I go, Frank! He looks, stops, and I go, look. I was told to use the machine. I said, I can grab that all day long, but I was doing what I was told. He turned around and walked away.
Yeah.
Next day, Donnie comes in there, and he goes, hey, I see you had a little thing with Frank. You came and talked to me. And I says, yeah, and he goes, man, he was like a pit bull coming at me. He started yelling at me, and he goes, he gained a lot of respect for you. And I went, what? He goes, you didn't tell him to take a hike, do this. You just said, yeah, you told him. And then he walked away, and he goes, he came over and told me, he goes, I have a lot of respect for that guy.
Yeah, that's the old school stuff. I love it. It's like, yeah, and that's a lot of, you know, you probably have 1,000 stories like that. I got 1,000 stories. You know, I think that, you know, I'm hopeful that everything works out and they get some financing.
Yeah.
And
So when I would come home and I'd visit people and I'd come home and I'd go see Frank and say, hey, Mike, how's it going? How's Vegas going? I said, oh, it's good. He'd always ask me every time I'd go see him. And it's just like, okay, well, this is his sandcastle. And I just hope I would just wish the kids would learn, okay, this is what your dad built for a reason to help all of us. So we'll see what happens. I think it's going to get into good hands again, and then people are going to see what Mr. Willie built and hopefully keep that going again.
Awesome. We're looking at Dad Mike here.
Oh.
He's on some skates.
I wonder who's holding who up there. And a little bit, maybe just sort of off-track stuff. Like what kind of things did you do growing up? Did you play hockey? I know you boxed a little bit. What kind of things did you do off the track?
I didn't box. I mean, I boxed.
You boxed like practice, not like a...
No, I went.
Oh,
actually, I went 3 meets. Yeah, with Dale Robinson and Gary. Gary Robinson was a good boxer. So was Jeff. And I went and did that. Skating or hockey, I never did it. Like Lance did it, Wade and their brothers, Aaron and Ryan. I never got into hockey. When I played soccer, I played baseball, and I am very fortunate that I was good at it, at baseball and soccer. But Mom and Dad would go. We raced BMX, like when Brian Clucci had him. We raced with them back in the day. I'm going to tell you a story about his brother. I always think about it now. But it's like, okay, pick something. You guys are doing too much, and it's not like back then. It's just you couldn't be in two places at once. So I had to quit boxing. I wish I never did. I wasn't like Muhammad Ali was my favorite, but I wasn't like him. But I liked it. I liked the training of it. I liked it. I did pretty good for how long. I only did it for a couple of years. So we had to pick ice skating or hockey. I never did it. I had lots of friends that were really good hockey players. So years later, I played hockey for the first time after work with Stu Gordon. 20 guys or so got together or more. You put your money in, and we went up to Mill Bay. I got 19 stitches across my face. I bought a half shield, and Stacy goes, "You need to put that on." I said, "No, I'll put it on next game." I come home, and she's like, "We got to go." "What do you mean we got to go to the hospital?" And she looks, "I told you to put that half shield."
I thought it was from the box.
Oh,
and
no.
I thought you got split open.
So what happened
And then
is...
maybe Mike Haslam was talking too much about confidence in the
No,
face.
so we both fell down, and then as we're both getting up, he got up to skate away, and as he went to go skate away, his skate came across me. I stayed and played hockey. I went into you need to go now. I said, "Hell no, man, I'm going in the dressing room. I'll put a little bit of stuff on." I came back out and played. But yeah, I got 19 stitches across my face. I wish I would have played hockey. I would have been like I think I would have tried out for a goalie. That's what I would have done.
Hey, you see him like a goalie. Just kidding. I put this picture on here. Every time I see a guy that's won a ton, in NASCAR, whatever else, they kind of like you see there. Yeah, I've done this before. Every time I see you win a race, it seems like you've never won before.
Yeah.
And I love that fact that you still have that passion. When you're shop, you got 2 cars here, you got sprint car, you got go karts. Like racing is your passion. Every time you win, is it just like your first win? I know I sent you a little guest questionnaire first, and I said, what's your highlights? And you're like, every race.
Yeah.
Every race I've ever been in. That's it. That's my highlights.
Yeah.
So what kind of you like to win, obviously, but what's the emotion sort of in this picture?
It's adrenaline when you go and when you win and you beat the best that are in your class that day, because and I like helping out other people with setup. So when you win, you're not going out there and you're just doing circles and give me a checkered flag and give me the trophy. When I go to the races and I'm fortunate enough to win now, I go to help other teams because I've been there by myself where you're struggling, and so you just keep tinkering. So if you can, and my dad taught us that to help other people. So, and my parents, they just be nice to others, please and thank yous, and so when you help other people, and then when you try to help them be fast, and I've had this, I think it was Rich Hardgraves. I might have given my whole setup back in the day, like 95 or 6, like to my stunner car. And everything. Because they're like, "Oh, you're doing this and doing that." And I said, "Okay, here, this is what I have." And somebody went, "Why did you do that?" "I'll beat him on the racetrack. And if I don't, I'll go home and I'll work on my car faster." So now he's going to be more competitive now, so he's going to stick in the series or at Western Speedway long because he's having fun now. Yeah. He's not going to go, "I just spent a whole bunch of money and I'm not having fun, so why do I want to do this?" Well, if you can help a guy, give him a couple little pointers, is it going to help? Who knows? You try to help somebody out. You're not going to give him anything wrong because then it puts a bad name on yourself. And my dad's always been that way. Like if somebody crashed, like Brian Clucci, when Robbie and him got together on the back chute, he went up. He was up and over, man. It was like, holy crap, man. It's like, okay. So it was just a racing accident, but my brother was involved, so we went over there. My dad was working. I was working. A whole bunch of people came over. But we were in there before, like he says. They were working on the car. We were under there working on it. Try to help him get back. He came back, and he almost won the damn race. That's just the way we always are. It's just help other people. So when I win races now, it's more special to me. Like, to me, it's just, I don't know, it's cool to win.
You see the energy release every time.
Oh, yeah.
I could have put like literally 30 pictures. Yeah. It looked like the same photo, and you'd be like, "Oh, that's a different night. It's a different night," and it's the same, same emotion coming out. And I like the fact that there's no roof on your cars, no wings, so you can see it coming. You're pumping your fist down the front stretch. It's
almost got snapped in half one night.
Yeah, I know. I give him a big old hug. He's taller than me, but I still lift him up about 2 feet off the ground. No, this, I don't know, I know if you call it later in your career, like you don't know when your next win's going to come. And it's like what these guys say, like enjoy the moment right there. To me, winning is winning now. It's just, okay, the reason why I like winning now is because of my crew. They put a lot of time, they take away from their family, they're helping me, but they're helping me or the race car so we can win. So when you see the smiles on their face, or even race fans, like when race fans come up, "Hey, good job," like that makes me, okay, I did my job tonight because somebody out of the stands is going home and like, "Ooh, I'm glad I came to Western Speedway. That was a good race." So I try to win races now for my crew. For me, if it doesn't bother me, I have fun. I get emotionally like this, raise my hands up, and that's more or less thank you race fans for coming out and hope you enjoyed the
We're
races.
gonna see a backflip soon. Like you said,
No.
you were good at soccer, you had some speed. You keep jumping all, or what?
No, I thought about doing a call, but I'm too old for that. I'd break my foot or ankle.
Could we do a fence climb? Maybe?
Yeah,
The
I thought
Elio
about doing
Castro
that.
Neves style, Tony Stewart.
I got a couple ideas with my sprint car what I wanted to try, but I just don't know if it would work. I wanted to do a burnouts up against because there's no clutch, there's no nothing, so you don't want to hit the wall because you might do damage to your race car. But I wanted to try to get up there and do a smoke show like in a real car, and then as you're doing the smoke show, you stand up through the roof. But you keep doing the smoke. I got some neat ideas, but just things have to work.
Holding
out.
the steering.
With these cars here,
Yeah.
I've always wanted to, because these are clutch, but my legs are short. We got short legs, that's Haslam. But I wanted to try to do a burnout, sit on the side of the car with the steering wheel turning, but sitting outside the car, but you're still doing a burnout.
Nice.
I'm trying to figure out how I can do that when you win.
drifting
Yeah,
style,
kind of, yeah.
Nice. Well, that was great.
We have rapid fire graphic now.
I stopped being super cheap, and I got
Wow.
a Canva account, and I started making some proper logos and stuff. So we're trying to be professional, because I'm not sure if you heard all the other ones, Mikey, but most of the time I can't remember these questions, and it just kind of ends with me and Cole going, I think it's this one or that one. So we have Smartwash is bringing you some rapid fire questions. So the first one, pre-race traditions.
I have none.
Perfect. Next question.
No, I'm pretty simple. I'm pretty simple when I go to the racetrack. I know these people. I got to wear the same underwear. I got to do all this, and I just go. It's my
You
office.
got your Seahawks hat on.
Oh yeah, I love my Seahawks. That's a
Yeah, I was giving Jason White shit.
yeah. I know he's the 49er. I know. I text him and like, hey, I love your kid, man. No, I have no traditions. Like I don't go to the racetrack. Okay, I just like my stuff when I go to the racetrack. It's clean. Okay, we can get to the toolbox, but no
So
traditions.
prep is your thing. You work in a car, you do stuff, and you're comfortable.
Toolbox, like what you just said. Like my toolbox is clean. So when you take a wrench from my toolbox, I know what's missing. I got friends down in Las Vegas. It's like, okay, your toolbox, have it organized. Well, you need wrenches. I got wrenches. I says, yeah, you got 5, 9, 16 wrenches. I don't need 5. I need 2. What about 3/4? And he's like, well, just tell me what I need to buy. Because when you go in my toolbox and you go to my brother's, we're salt and pepper when it comes to that stuff. Everything's on the floor. But if you need something, he goes, hey, it's over in the corner to the right down below. It's over there. And mine is like, if you're missing, okay, there's a wrench out somewhere.
So I think we know the deal with the number. That's another pretty obvious one.
Yeah, when I first started, my dad, we had to register. It's under Vitra back then, and he came and I said I put 22. I said, okay, that's good. We're on the same page.
Awesome. So car race you want to compete in?
I don't really want to. There's nothing. I want to go back to the K&N series, but I got to race. Or not race, but I got to go do one of those driving schools in Las Vegas on the Super Speedway, a cup car. And no word of a lie, I was laughing so hard when I was going around that track at 150, 60 miles an hour. I'm looking over my shoulder, looking in the infield, and I'm doing 150 miles an hour. You go into the corner, you turn, the car turns. There's nothing. All you got to have is that little bit of extra, not balls, but just that little bit more aggressive than the next guy, because the cars are everything now. It's not like, okay, like my dad's era, it's the driver. The cars are everything. And I just went in there, so I don't really have a car that, if I had the money, then maybe I'd go to drive a truck or something like that. It'd be kind of cool to do something, the Craftsman trucks.
Road course or something, maybe?
Talking about a road course, I got to race a legend car in Las Vegas. And it was actually a road course in the Super Speedway. And a friend of mine I raced against is Alex Haas. He drove for Kyle Busch in the K&N series. And so, this is a cool story. So, a friend of ours had a legend car, and my friend Al Budd goes, hey, let's go get this car. We'll race it. You race Sunday, I'll race Saturday. I said, okay, cool. So, we go to the racetrack, and we're going around, and I get Alex take me around the golf course, because he's been racing these things since he's like 8 years old. So he took me around, okay, be in this gear. So we go practice. The box blew up, so we're trying to find a box, and Al was actually going to race the Saturday. I go, come on, let's go. And I'm on him, right? I go to a race to win. I don't go to say, hey man, yeah, cool, I'm a race car driver. And he goes, you race it. Because I'm like, come on, let's go. So anyways, the box broke. We got the box fixed. And then, so you could have cut right across the racetrack. And for some stupid reason, I went around the racetrack to catch, because they're already on the racetrack to take the green. So I went around. I could have cut across and started. There was 43 cars. And I started like dead last. I got up to 20th. And it's just the race was over. It was so much. It was so funny the way I was like, "You race it like, what do you think you're going to win this race?" I said, "Hell yeah! I'm not here to just start."
Just steer wheel 4 tires. Let's go.
Oh yeah, it was so much fun.
Awesome. So best spotter or crew member comment. This has got some interesting ones.
Well, spotter and crew member, or for comments for crew members, spotters I've never had. Like I've had friends to say, "Okay, I'm going to go grab a beer or something while they're spotting for somebody," like John Boyd, my engine builder's kid and stuff. But for crew members, so there's a guy named Ray Hooper, Lance Hooper, is a champion in the K&N series, and so his brother Ray, good race car driver. He actually probably would have gone somewhere, but he loved the wacky tobacco, and so Richard Childress and stuff like never really got into it after that. Good guy, unfortunately passed away from cancer. It's been a while now. What a cool dude. I got to race against him, got to be good friends with him through friends and stuff. So I got to be a crew chief in the speed trucks, and I had 2 cars down in Las Vegas. I had my late model and my super. So my engine builder's kid, John Boy, he's a good friend of mine, and he was racing my late model. So we took Chuck's 44 enclosed trailer, we took his truck and trailer, and we put the truck in that, and we had an open trailer, and we put my late model on it. Well, Hooper was driving the open trailer. So we're going up through, we're getting close to, because back then you had to go through Bakersfield and go up. So we're going up over Bakersfield Pass. We're coming down into Bakersfield. We're doing 100 miles an hour. 2 vehicles. And so we're coming down, and we're coming down this hill, and Michael Miller, he was my spotter down there, and we had another guy, Nick, he was the guy that drove the truck, and somebody else in the back with me, but those guys are in front of us, and we're coming 100 miles an hour down this hill. And if we would have crashed, we would have been dead, or if we would have got pulled over, the 10 of us would have been in jail in Bakersfield. And he's like, we're going to die. And he just looks at me. He's got his hand hanging on to that, the shit handle type thing. These guys are in the back. They're hanging on. And they looking at me, and I look over and go, I'm just letting it ride, you guys. And they're like, we're going to die. I said, it's okay. We're just letting it ride. And we're coming down the hill. So the best part is, so we get going through Bakersfield. We're doing 100, not kilometers, 100 miles an hour.
160.
My late model's in front of me in an open trailer. So
Drafting.
Oh, no, not drafting, bum drafting. These guys are going, they look at each other, they go, he just did not do that, did he? And he goes, do what? He goes, you didn't just hit your car, did you? And I said, yeah, we're bump drafting, buddy. We're 100 miles an hour. I'm nerfing my late model with Chuck's front end of his truck. He probably still doesn't know that happened.
Sorry, Chuck.
Yeah, no kidding. And so we're going, and all of a sudden, Hooper turns to the right, and it's like, holy shit. So I had to turn. Here's some guy just cruising down the road with a horse trailer. And it's like we had to swerve around him, and it's like, holy crap. So the trailer that Chuck owned, everybody's wrecked it. Not wrecked it, but put a little dent in it and stuff. So Chuck always got, like, you guys are wrecking my trailer. You wrecked it. This person, Brian Kaiser, he's a cool dude. And so someone else broke. You guys got, so we're going to Bakersfield back in 2007 or so, I think it was, somewhere around there. Anyways, and it's before, it was the last race that they had, their open comp. I said, you know what, I'm going to Bakersfield. I got to race at some pretty cool tracks. My dad's got the race there. So Chuck always used to say, someone's always doing something on the trailer. So we pull out at Chuck's yard, we get going, we get up to Blue Diamond, and we're turning left to go down Blue Diamond, and then we're going to go down the I-5. We didn't even make it pretty much Chuck's driveway. We hit a Mexican car in the thing, and we just started laughing because Chuck was always giving us crap for hitting his truck. And I go, now you can't bitch at us, Trickle, because you just hit. So he goes over this guy. We just nudged him, right? It was just, it was so cool. Chuck gave him a couple bucks and said, get the hell out of here, or we're going to call the IRS on you or something like that.
Well, when I was down there, they're hauling Chris's car to the track.
Yeah.
And they blew the motor up in the tow truck.
Yeah.
In the F-350, whatever. Like another truck, and I had to pull it out, and I had to go get another one.
Oh yeah,
so had some bad luck with some tow vehicles.
Yeah, things comes in threes, because when we went to Bakersfield for that race, so Chuck hit that car. It was funny. So we get to Bakersfield, and I've never been there before. It's a half mile, and so we're pretty decent Friday night. We get up Saturday morning, go through, prep the car, go through the nut and bolt, check it, and get everything right. We go to practice, and then coming down the front chute, and all of a sudden you can hear the car just dropped the right front. You're not doing 50 miles an hour. You're doing a buck something down the front straight. It's a half mile, right? You're probably doing 120, 30 miles an hour roughly, somewhere in there. And all of a sudden I'm going, holy shit. And I'm coming down, going into turn one. My tire's flat on my right front. And I'm trying to, okay, how am I going to not destroy my race car? Because it's mine. I paid for it, right? It's not like I have money to just go buy a new one. So I go and I'm turning the wheel to the left, just jerking it. Well, it was good enough to where I slapped the wall, not straight into where my clip would go over to the right. So we come back in, they got towed in, we put up on jack stands, we fixed it. We've got all the spare parts, put it back together. We missed the last chance race by one car. What happened was when we hit, the chassis bent up and it hit the header on the right side. Well, we didn't see the header up against the spark plug. So the spark plug went down to 7 cylinders. So I didn't have the power like everybody else. So I finished whatever it was, 5th or something. But anyway, so things comes in 3. So I crash. So Chuck, what you just said about this is a different vehicle. Yeah. He's on the way home up Bakersfield. The distributor blows up on the vehicle. And it's like, holy crap, man. So we had some, for the crew and all that stuff, we had a lot of fun doing stuff.
Awesome. So finally, last one here for the Smart West Rapid Fire. Best track for an after race party.
Oh, you got to think that where my brother lives right now. It's the best place. Like after the races at Western Speedway, they would have the food, and then everybody, as we're kids, that we grew up, and people still talk about our place now. And it's people that don't even go, like they're not racers, but they were fans, but they've come after the races. So it's pretty cool. Like Ron Esau, I got to race him. He ran the Trick 1 car too, and he ran some Winston West races, and he even said the same thing. The fans up there, the parties, and all that stuff. Your guys' place, and it was our place is. My brother still owns it. I think that's why he doesn't sell it, because there's been some like Rusty Wallace, Gary Nelson have been to our place, and it's just like, okay, well, some of the famous, they're up in NASCAR now, man. And it's like they've been to our place back in the day when they're just like little Rugrats type thing. But Gary Nelson's head of NASCAR now, and Rusty Wallace is Rusty Wallace. He's a Winston Cup champion. So, but he was a young kid back then. So it's pretty cool that those guys have been around, and it's been our house that they've been to.
Awesome, that's great. Well, I think that kind of wraps it up. I think we could have gone on for another few hours. So yeah, thanks for taking the time out of working the cars and all the rest of it, working on the cows and the go-karts and everything.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Short Track Radio. It's a good thing you guys are doing, bringing out all the stories that people can listen to. It's a great job, you guys.
So this is episode 22. On the docket, we got episode 23. Hopefully you get Tim Christie on. Another great driver. I think he won 8 championships in a row, I think it was, or at least 7 in a row in 4 different classes. So
is he coming on next?
That's what I'm trying to get on next. He's agreed, but I think he's a little apprehensive.
Yeah.
So we'll that, and then trying to get Trevor Montgomery. So again, send him some messages.
Yeah.
Get him out.
Annoy
the crap out of him. So we.
Tim Christie, he had that Lee Sprung car, and they had that thing working. Him and Todd did back in the day. That was a fast car. They had it work.
Yeah. It's crazy. I was like seeing him at. You mentioned before, you see someone at the grocery store or else.
Yeah.
Like, Todd, he's fixing
Yeah.
Pepsi machines. When you're really young, you're like, how is he
Yeah.
working on race cars and Pepsi machines? Like, it's the coolest thing ever.
I went up to him. They were testing one day at Western Speedway, and I asked Tim, I go, hey, can I borrow your car for qualifying? Because I wasn't a good qualifier back in the day. And he goes, go jump in it now. And I said, okay. So I'm not a cocky person or anything like that. So he was out testing. And they said, okay, Mike, go out in it. So he's been out in it, and I was going to bet him 25 cents. I'll go faster in your own car. I came back in, and Todd, I go, who's faster? And he goes, you were. And I said, I was going to bet you 25 cents. That car, they had it work. Tim did an awesome. He did good in that car. And then when Jim Ricks, he bought that other car for him to go run that Sportsman Quintana, whatever it was. He did a good job. Tim's a good driver.
Yeah.
Be nice to have them on.
Yeah, it'll be great. Hopefully we can line it up. We've got a week or so to do it, so we'll be pounding the pavement. But thanks to Smart Wash. We don't know the owner of that particular company.
Great
at all.
company though. They're looking for a new employee. So if you know anyone that's got a class 3 and some mechanical
there you
ability, they're hiring, and $22 an hour start. So
Good
episode
number
22.
right
It's
there.
a solid number. All right. Thanks, Mike, again for joining us. This has been another edition of Short Track Radio. Tune in when we feel like posting next.